Hello out there in cryptocurrency land. Welcome back to Real Crypto. Thanks for joining me here today. All right, so we've got Bitcoin back up here rolling over. And in our last video, we discussed this declining wedge that had formed in Bitcoin, the possibility of it breaking out, which it did do, albeit not with much fanfare. If you recall, our target was actually the top of this line right here, which is the top of this overall bear flag. So if you guys forget, here's our bear flag, which did break to the downside, and that's when I said Bitcoin was in trouble, and it was in trouble. Looks like it's still in trouble. And then in the following video, we talked about this declining wedge, and this formed because of the lack of selling going lower, forming this line to the downside right here, which we couldn't have anticipated prior to this point. So out of this declining wedge, we pop higher, which is expected out of a declining wedge, but you see the bulls didn't have much ammunition at that particular point in time. We popped just a little bit. We actually caught this live in the power hour. That was pretty exciting, but it didn't really work out. Sometimes trades don't work out. In this particular circumstance, the bear market wins, and we roll over, subsequently taking out this neckline with impunity and rolling over. And let's look at this most recent action. Well below the 200 period moving average, cutting beneath the 50 period moving average, which this has been chopped into, so it's not a major trend, not a major trend line for the 2 hour. The 200 period is a major trend line for the 2 hour. The 50 does get chopped up, but what we're seeing is the 10 period moving average holding down this move to the downside. Also, something that's not super encouraging, at least in my mind, is this little bit of increasing volume. You see the low volume on this little flag pattern, subsequently breaking down, volume increasing. We have this high volume bottoming candle. So right now this is our low, is 81.44. We need to see if this thing holds, and if it doesn't hold, then we're going to have much further prices in Bitcoin. This could proceed a bounce, possibly into this 50 period moving average, possibly into this neckline right here, or more like a trend line than a neckline. So could hit us right here at about the 83.50 level, something like a bounce into that. But so far not doing. So far it's staying low. If you did want to play this for a bounce, that's fine, but you're going to want to keep your stop to the low of this most recent point. Now, this is not necessarily a trade that I would recommend taking. Reason being is because there's not a lot of reward on the table here, only about 2% to the upside there. All right, so something else that's kind of very bearish in the market right now is Ethereum. Ethereum, which we talked a few videos ago, having this larger head and shoulders pattern. We did try to rally with Bitcoin here, as you can see in that recent rally, but we failed to get much higher than this prior level, held in by this 200 period moving average, actually respecting that very well, and rolling over right now. I think this candle and probably the next series of candles in Ethereum on my 2 hour chart here may be crucial. Reason being is because up until recently we have a series of higher lows here, and this really right now is running the risk of breaking that and putting in a lower low, and it looks like that 2 hour candle just finished actually as I'm recording this video. So we have the neckline in this head and shoulders pattern right here, which has been pierced. That's a pierce of this neckline, so this could bring in some further advanced selling. So this is either going to reverse immediately or probably be cause for a further fall in Ethereum, and that would likely be in concert with a fall in Bitcoin. So I guess it just depends on your view. If you're bullish, you think we're going to reverse here somewhere and head higher. If you're bearish, you think we're going to roll over here and go lower, and that would take Ethereum lower as we get down here. So really depends on your viewpoint. I'm really leaning bearish right now. I know there's some people that aren't leaning bearish, but I'm taking this lack of volume as lack of bullish participation as we see the price move lower overall. Pretty much all the high volume action has been to the downside here. We've got a swath of, we got a little area here of selling, a nice pocket of selling there, an area of selling here, all lower. We're not seeing that kind of action in the bullish camp. Even down here we see aggressive selling much more than we see aggressive buying on the 2 hour candle. And as we know, this was pretty much mostly short covering. A lot of these bars were short covering, and so I'm not really putting that into bullish territory. What it does do is it does extend the bear market, however. We were extremely I guess how you say, long in shorts. There were a lot of shorts in the market here, and that led to this kind of short covering rally. And I think that we're probably going to roll over here in time. It's not going to happen immediately, but overall, I'm not looking the looks of Bitcoin nor Ethereum. And if we go back to Bitcoin Cash, I know there's not a ton of Bitcoin Cash fans out there, but excuse me as we do discuss it. Bitcoin Cash did have a huge rally to the upside, and I've mentioned this a couple of times. This kind of weird multiple head or single head, multiple shoulders. There's your head with multiple shoulders here in Bitcoin Cash, and there's your neckline of the pattern. And this particular kind of weird head and shoulders pattern leading us down to potential low here in Bitcoin Cash of about the 710, 700 level. And you can see here recently with the run up in Bitcoin, we came up and tested the neckline and failed it. And Bitcoin Cash looking weak as well, living below this neckline. And Ethereum has, it's testing the neckline right now. Litecoin, lots of lines happening in Litecoin. I guess I was having fun with necklines. Litecoin also with a head and shoulders pattern here. This was my negation line for the head and shoulders pattern in case we ran up. That didn't happen, subsequently rolling over. So just depending on the neckline that you want to give Litecoin, this is the one that I would probably give more credence to right here. And I'd actually have to move this lower based on this most recent action. This takes us down to Litecoin 80. And, we'll have to see if this happens or not, ladies and gentlemen. I guess there could be another school of thought, or maybe this is your trend line in Litecoin, and then you put your shoulder up here on one of these pauses, or not really peaks. But either way, so that this one we broke down, this bounce came into this area. We already failed and we're living below the neckline. So it just depends how you want to call that, where you want to call that neckline. But if we have this line, and I actually haven't done this analysis before, let's go ahead and kind of figure out where we could go in Litecoin if this is our neckline. Right down to these lows here at the 112 level. So pretty much right down to the bottom area there. So this seems a lot less scary than this one does. So, either one, this Litecoin chart really could go either way. These aren't well-defined shoulders, but I've seen that happen in the past. You look at the Bitcoin 20,000 chart, and that looks really similar to that Litecoin. This would be on the daily on Bitcoin. We saw here in, I guess I'd have to go to the 4-hour chart. Not really well defined there at all, but you can see here in Bitcoin there was something similar that happened. There was kind of this neckline that was forming here, and I'm going off memory here, guys, so please bear with me. But you see here there's really lack of a shoulder here, but we still get this measured move that plays out. It actually played out even lower. Yep, right there. Just what I thought it was. Okay, so here's this neckline in Bitcoin for this weird head and shoulders pattern. And this did play out actually more aggressively. This bottomed out about $1,800 lower, $1,500 lower than that neckline. But Litecoin looks eerily similar to that in the fact that we have kind of a wide shoulder here, lack of a right shoulder, and then subsequently breaking down. So maybe we get here, maybe we do get a spike low ultimately. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm not looking the likes of any of these top altcoins. XRP as well, not looking very healthy. So XRP already has broken down as well. There's not really a head and shoulders here, just a general topping pattern, but there is a trend line. We did break that. You could have taken a measured move off of this, I guess. This looks like pretty well formed measured move here. You can see the breakdown there down to the target area. That has worked. Subsequently putting in a flag pattern here. This would by definition be a bear flag, so we can potentially go lower here to these lows. The question is, again, what camp are you in? Are you a bull? Are you a bear? Like I said, I lean to the bearish camp. I'm not going to necessarily try to convince you of that. But, the market's in kind of an equilibrium situation. I mentioned 9,000 has kind of been the line that I see is a fairly well-defined equilibrium pattern going all the way back down to this high. That's kind of where I view things. It's not in the middle of the overall pattern, but if you take this into account, it definitely is, and this would indicate a lower bounce rolling over. 8,000 also could be in the talks for an area of potential equilibrium, and we're testing that line here again as well. But I wouldn't take these price levels 8,000-9,000 with too much fanfare. Those are just some levels that I've noticed that have been kind of respected in the past. But overall, I'm not happy with the bounce here in Bitcoin. If this were bullish action, guys, they wouldn't let it roll over. They would just continue buying. But because they didn't buy, that shows that there's seller exhaustion and bears are coming back into the market. At least that's how I'm viewing this action at this particular moment in time. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Oh, something else I forgot to mention as I'm clicking through my charts. Sorry about that. Ethereum, Bitcoin. You don't really see me pull this chart very often, and it's because I don't. But this is the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. This shows that Ethereum right now is in the middle of an increasing volume sell-off, being less bullish than Bitcoin. You saw that Ethereum's been bullish the whole time. Ethereum rolling over here in confluence with its head and shoulders pattern on the USD Ethereum chart. So that's something interesting. I just posted this in the Slack chat room not too long ago. If you're not involved with the Slack chat room or the Power Hour, please check out my website, real-crypto.com. The Slack chat room is free to join. Fill out the form on the homepage there. You'll get sent the link. The Power Hour is not free. It's $50 a month, but we go over very in-depth analysis today. Today we discussed how to view the market holistically, and the fact that we don't have to trade all the time, long or short. You can let the market give you signals. But right now the market's looking bearish. Overall, in my opinion, I don't think we have, I think this rising wedge was it for the bulls, in my opinion. This was their chance to move higher. They failed to do so, and we discussed that last time right here with this rising wedge. We discussed this a couple of videos ago. Let's get both of these in the mix here. So you can see with this declining wedge, we had the bounce and the rollover. With this declining wedge, we had a bounce and an immediate rollover. This looking much weaker than this action is. There was actually head and shoulders right here. And over here, I don't see much of a possibility of a head and shoulders forming. Not really. I mean, like I said, we could bounce up into this neckline here, kind of the 83.50 level, but we'll have to wait and see what that happens. So, all right, guys, before I ramble any further, sorry about that. I'm going to get out of your hair. Thanks for joining me today. Like the video, subscribe, comment if you like the video. YouTube loves the comments and the shares. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.